Hello and welcome to the second video in this series on the introduction to natural language processing with Python. In the first video we installed NLTK, the Natural Language Toolkit. Let's get a general sense of how this works, what we can do with it, and see some of the limitations to get a realistic idea of future applications we can use to write programs. Let's go ahead and start with importing the necessary toolkit. So we can go from NLTK.book import star. So we're downloading everything from NLTK.book. So we did this in the last video, and we see that the texts that are contained are samples of text like Moby Dick, sentence sensibility, the Book of Genesis from the Bible, inaugural addresses, the chat corpus, which is an instant messenger chat log, which by the way has not safe for work content, and some other various professional writings and books. So just to get an idea, we can type text1. So text1 is Moby Dick, as the list suggests. And we can see what type it is. Type text1. So Moby Dick is, text1 is of type class NLTK text.text. So it's a custom class. Now we can reference the contents of this class as if it was a list. So first I'm just going to, for ease in understanding, assign text1 to MD_book for readability. Okay. So now that we have that, I can go MD_book and print out the first 50 items. Okay, we see here this first entry is the title. It says the author and the date, and it just has some general information. And then it gets into the actual content. So we can also see about how big, how many contents there are within this class. If we go length, abbreviated to LEN, so it's pretty big, about 260,000 items in there. Okay, fair enough. So we aren't using the toolkit yet, but let's go ahead and see one example of the things we can do in NLTK. So we'll go, probably faster to type it, but we'll go MD_book and we'll use concordance. It pops up there, and those are some other methods that we could use. So what concordance is we pass in a word. So in Moby Dick, I know there's going to be a whale, so I'll type whale. Okay. So what do we get returned here? We're getting a printout of the context. We're getting a printout, of whale, and we're seeing words that become before and after it. Notice that whale is centered here, as if it's its own unique column, and that's what it is. So this can give us a sense of surrounding words without any interpretation. It's just, here's the word, and here are words that come before it and words that come after it. So this could be useful if you want to find out a general sense of context of the word. So here some say the whale can't open his mouth, but so we can get a pretty general sense, but we don't get too much information from this. But it's good to see word frequency and just a little bit of context without the interpretation. So if we wanted to use the toolkit to do interpreting for us and get more of analysis, some intelligence behind it, one thing we could do is go similar. So this analysis in NLTK, let's get this up here. This analysis in NLTK will show us more of conceptually what context is it going to be similar. So when we type whale, we have ship, boat, sea, captain, world, man, deck. In other words, we're going to see, well, in what context or where is it similarly used? What words are surrounding it? So is it a whale in an aquarium? Not in Moby Dick. It's out in the wild. It's probably by a boat, and there's a captain and a person. So man on deck. So we can make some extrapolations about these contexts without reading the whole context of the book. So that's some utility. Without reading that whole thing, we can pick out some highlights, some important things. Okay, so we've looked at Moby Dick, and we can move on to something a little more contemporary. So text 7 is the Wall Street Journal. So I'm going to say Wall Street Journal equals text 7. Okay, so in the Wall Street Journal is a more formal language and more informative. And there's a lot of talks of money and the economy and businesses. So why don't we go Wall Street Journal concordance and money. Okay, so here we have funds, and you see people are referenced, and it talks about grant money. So it's not all just money is in different contexts, so we can get an idea of the surrounding language around that. Okay, now this is going to be more professional and straightforward, but if we go to the chat, which again, there's a lot of not safe for work content, but that's one specific type of exchange, so to speak. And the chat corpus is text 5. So I'll go IM _ chat equals text 5. So I'll go ahead and go IM chat dot concordance and money. And it does display the amount of matches. So for example, it's suppressed. It only printed out 25 of 60 for the Wall Street Journal. And according to this, there's not as much talk about the economy in the chat window. And you'll notice that in the chat, there's going to be different styles of grammar, colorful language, abbreviations, and things like that. So the first line is very enlightening. It says, anyone can be bought if there's enough money. Do you guys have webcams? And there's a smiley face, and you probably won't come across that kind of statement in the Wall Street Journal. Okay. So looked at a few of those examples there. And so we can look at where a word is and what are some surrounding. We can get an idea of similarity, so contextual context by using similar, we can get a little more specific, and we'll use a good example of context of multiple words. For example, in the inaugural address corpus, text 4. So I'll say pres speech equals, already forgot it, I think it was 4. Yep, text 4. Okay. Presidential speeches or inaugural address, more specifically. So here I'll go just to get an idea, because sometimes, and I'll refer to this note, it's there's a method called common context, and we can put, typically it's used for 2 words that are together and derives context from that. So typically in the presidential speeches, the inaugural addresses more specifically, there's talk of the United States. And actually this needs to be in brackets. Okay. So I made a mistake there. I forgot the most important part here. So it's a common context. So we see that we found common context between United States to be the and. So that doesn't add too much value. It could be considered interesting, but it's more of those words that aren't descriptive and don't give us a lot of meaning. You know, it's not groundbreaking to find out that the is used a lot and, which binds words together, is used. It doesn't really give us any meaning. So let's see. If we first look at words that are similar, maybe we can refine our common context search. So let's go pres speech similar, S-I-M-I-L, similar, and a good one was united. And notice there are no brackets like before. Common context takes in a list or multiple entries. So presidential speech dot similar united gives us free, great, new, people, enlightened, the confidence, nation, mind. So words you might expect in a formal address to a large number of people. Okay. So why don't we do I like justice, and that gave me some results. I've done some scratch work here. So why don't we do common context, brackets, or we'll try united people first. Oh, text has no common context. Where did I goof? Oh, common context, plural. Again, we get some kind of non-value added words. One that gave me a little insight, which I did, was justice and people. Justice and people. So of that which and serve. So that at least gives us some notion of context and meaning besides just the and words that bind together. And later in the future, we'll talk about how to eliminate these altogether from our searches so we don't get these concurrences and contexts and similarities with words that just don't really mean anything. Like, for example, in the similar parts of speech, we don't really need to know the, because it's not really adding any value. It doesn't give us any context. It doesn't give us any more layers or analysis or in depth. However, common context can possibly do that, and it's a little more specific. I do find that if you leave out the second entry, you get some more context. I'm not sure if they intended this or how common it is for people to use it. However, this works. And if we type in justice, so establish, extract to them, then observing justice, demand justice. So that gives us a little more context. And it is different than similar. If I just do similar, take out the brackets, and so we get peace, Congress, it, government, America, freedom, power, all war this time, union. So that's pretty interesting. It gives us some value-added analysis, and if we didn't know anything about what presidential speeches were, and you come from that mindset, you'd at least get a sense of, okay, we're addressing people, it's related to the government, you'd know what country we're talking about, you'd know, generally speaking, there's a lot of talks of morals and values here with prosperity, liberty, law, commerce, referencing the economy. So this just gives us a little window into analysis in NLTK. Not everything is going to yield perfect results, but with some analysis and getting used to the programs, we can see when these built-in methods can be very valuable and provide us context, because we really want to, and we'll see in later videos, we want to eliminate a lot of the unnecessary analysis, eliminate words like the and, things like that, and really go for contextual ideas, like find them, highlight them, and to understand large bodies of text, or try to extract meaning without actually having to go and decipher ourselves. We let the toolkit do that for us. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you learned something about it and got a general sense of NLTK. Stay tuned for future content. We'll get more into the specifics. There's a lot of jargon. I've noticed going through NLTK that I wasn't familiar with, and we can start to introduce that more frequently so we can get up to speed. And thanks again, and I hope you have a great day, and stay tuned for more.